All right, everyone, welcome to a very, very special live stream today. I am shifting it up. We have done live Q&As for quite a while, and today I wanted to circle back and do something just a little bit different. Today, I'm going to go into teaching mode, and we are going to talk about the top 3 tips that I can offer you to avoid disaster within your Express Entry application. So, join me in just a second, and we're going to dive right in and welcome everybody in. All right, we are back once again, and I want you guys to let me know where you're tuning in from. Like I said, I'm really excited about this one because these are things, guys, that I'm going to be teaching you today that I have not really covered before. This is brand new, and it's not the same old stuff. So these 3 tips are going to address certain aspects of Express Entry that you guys absolutely have to know and have to understand. And if you can follow what I'm going to teach you today, you will literally save yourself unbelievable headache and the potential of getting your application refused. All right. So post in the comments where you're tuning in from. Let's see where we have everybody that's connecting. I love to see you guys. I love to see where you're connecting in from. We've got Mr. Smash from City. Beautiful. I have no clue where that is. Welcome. We've got Bhavna's from India. Those of you over in the Facebook Express Entry Law Private Facebook group, I want to give a big shout out to you guys because it's awesome that you're connecting in as well. Remember, you're kind of anonymous just because of the way the live, feeds interact with those private Facebook groups. So that's why we can't see you. All right, let's see. Deepak over in Adelaide. Welcome, Deepak. Now, you guys, I know that the thing that really means a lot to me is that some of you are listening and watching this at crazy times. And I've kind of picked 10 a.m. just to make it the best time possible for the most people that really are, that could be tuning in live. So we've got Bhavna from India. We've got Masood over in Dubai. Welcome, Masood. It's great to have you. Let's see who else. We've got Anil over in Nepal. Fantastic. We've got a really great group. All right. Agrabeast, the Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivory. Ivory Coast, welcome. It's good to have you. Togo, Pascal, awesome. We've got a great group of people here. This is a really, really special, live stream, like I said, that I haven't done for a long time. We will definitely get to questions at the end. For sure. I've actually blocked off a lot of time to make sure that you guys do get your questions answered, but I really, really want to teach these things because these 3 things that I'm going to be sharing today, like I said, can literally make the difference between whether or not your Express Entry application is accepted or rejected. All right. Okay, let's see who else. We've got Ada in Qatar. There's a really, Bangladesh, Shapla. We've got Durn Deep is over in India, 10:35 p.m. Yes, not midnight. So there's a little bit of a compromise there, isn't there, Durn Deep? Okay, let's see who else we have here. Okay, Junrei Montero is in Leduc, Alberta. Excellent. Abby's over in Nigeria. We've got Shabnam's over in Halifax. We've got another person in the Express Entry Law Private Facebook group that is from India. This is so awesome. Let's see what else we have here. We've got Cecilia is over in India. Freena is India. We've got a pretty solid connection of Indian counterparts here. So this is a great group. And we'll just wait just a little bit longer, and then we will, we'll make sure that we get right into the content because I want to dive right into this for all of you. Salim's over in Pakistan. Make sure you post where you're tuning in from because I love to see where this message, especially this important one that I'm going to be sharing today, where it is reaching. And wow, can you imagine this? I'm just going to flip back here. This is so cool. Like, it is so cool to have the ability to share this information in a way that literally transmits all across the globe. And that is what gets me excited. And I feel truly like I'm making a difference. So thank you everybody for tuning in. And like I said, we will get to the live in just a second here. Zishan's over in Pakistan. Hello, Zishan. It's good to have you. We'll flip back here and let's see who else we have. Sana is over in Sudan. Mr. Smash has got his flag there. Awesome. What a name. You guys, some of your handles are awesome. Amjad is over in Pakistan. Dan's in France. Welcome. This is awesome. Okay, good. We got some more Canada. We've got someone from Burnaby, BC. We've got Vaughan, Ontario. Welcome. There we go. Ravi's over in Toronto. We've got Assad in Pakistan. This is what I love to see. Zishan's over in Pakistan. Reyes is over in Bangladesh. Ahmed, Egypt. I think you remember Ahmed if you've been following for a long time. But boy, March 18th last year, I was supposed to be on a flight headed to Cairo. And then the world changed, right? The world literally changed. And now we'll see where this new normal's going. And my heart goes out to all of you guys that are all over the world waiting to come. We've got Vera, Portugal. Olá, bem-vindo. Estou tão feliz tê-lo comigo. Oh, awesome, Vera. Great to have you. The one language that I can kind of speak. And we've got someone else from Ontario. We've got a great group. Belgium. Excellent. Another European contingent. And India. Thanks for posting this, guys. This is awesome. Another India. This is just fantastic. Australia, my brother's over there making Australia home for him and his family. So it is so, so awesome to have all of you guys here. Zishan says, can I ask a question? You can, Zishan, as soon as I go through these tips that I'm going to be sharing with you. And trust me, what I'm sharing you guys, you are not going to want to miss. This stuff is going to help you. I can guarantee that once I'm finished teaching you these 3 things, you are literally going to be in a different position when it comes to submitting your application. All right. So we've got Mohammed's over in Pakistan. We've got Suprani, who's in Thailand. We've got another person from India. What a great, great group. Hola, obrigada. You bet, Vera. And Nepal and Kurdistan. Oh, you guys, this is going to be an awesome group. Bangladesh. Wow, what an awesome, awesome group. All right, guys. All right. This is why we're here today. I literally have been thinking about this for a long time. I wanted to have the ability to really connect with you guys in a way that would make a difference. And with our live Q&As, I love them. I really do. But the reality is I can never really dive in deep because the questions come so fast. They cover so many different aspects of Express Entry that I can never really dive in deep the way I want to. So today, that's what we're going to do. All right. Well, what I want to do is I want to start off by just sharing a few things with you. So a few years ago, I was in a consultation with someone I'll call Raj. And this is pretty much how it played out. So after he shared his story, I looked at him and I said, you don't get a second chance. I can't fix this now. Raj was applying to come to Canada through Express Entry. Guys, he was the perfect candidate and well on his way. He did what so many people do, so many of you do. He made a simple mistake in his application, which resulted in it getting returned. Normally, this wouldn't be fatal. However, for Raj, he just had a birthday. He lost 5 CRS points, and now he was no longer eligible to get that invitation to apply. In fact, I had to tell Raj on that all too common Zoom call, which is the world we're living in now, that you don't get a second chance. Over the past 17 years, I've helped thousands of people like Raj and just like you immigrate to Canada. Raj's experience it's all too common, you guys. People try to do it all on their own and often make simple, completely avoidable mistakes. Choosing the wrong knock code, incomplete reference letters, deficient bank letters that literally took an application that should have been accepted and instead got it rejected. And when this happens, there is often nothing that I can do to help. There's often no second chances. Now, Raj's response to me was one I've heard countless times. And I, I hate listening to this. It just breaks my heart. He said, Mark, how was I supposed to know? I researched everything. I did everything that I thought Citizenship and Immigration Canada wanted me to do. Mark, this is so unfair. I believe, you guys, that no one who qualifies for express entry should ever have to see their dream of immigrating to Canada shattered because of a simple, avoidable mistake. For years, I wondered why there wasn't a simple step-by-step course, something to help people like Raj know exactly what to do and ensure they didn't make the same avoidable mistakes Raj did that destroyed his chances of immigrating to Canada. I waited for IRCC to provide better instructions that warn people of these most common mistakes, but it never came. And as an immigration lawyer, I can only help people one at a time. I couldn't help everyone that needed help. So I looked all over for some kind of a DIY course that I could direct people to that was trustworthy and that could explain exactly what they needed to do. Now, although there were some individuals making claims that they knew what to do, none of them were experts. In fact, the information, when I looked at it, that they shared was often completely wrong. So despite all of my searching, I never found one course on express entry that I could truly trust to refer people to. So I can still remember that day. This thought came to my mind. Wait a minute, Mark. You're a former high school teacher, an ex-Canadian immigration officer, and now you're an immigration lawyer. If a simple, easy to follow course on express entry doesn't exist, and there is a tremendous need for one, well, Mark, what are you going to do about it? I couldn't find one, you guys. So I made one. I literally made one. Today, I help people just like you go from costly mistakes to avoiding mistakes, from not knowing what to do to knowing exactly what to do, from getting your application rejected to significantly increasing the chance of getting your application approved and realizing your dream of immigrating to Canada. So in the next about 40 minutes, I'm going to teach you 3 of the most common reasons your express entry application gets refused and how to avoid them. Understand, these tips I have never shared before. This is the first time. So the first thing that I'd like to talk to you about is choosing your correct knock. The reason we're talking about this today is because there's a ton of confusion spread all over the internet about this. Everyone is telling you that your education must match the education listed in the knock before you can claim that work experience. I am telling you that education has nothing to do with claiming work experience and choosing your knock. Here are some specific things that I want you to focus on that I know you guys will significantly help you to ensure that you've chosen the correct knock and not to be neglected, presented it to an officer in a way that they will actually accept. So let's start with what IRCC is looking for. They are looking to see that if you've performed all the activities in the lead statement and a substantial number of the main duties listed in the knock position profile. Now, for those of you who are watching this and are novices and you're just new to express entry, the National Occupational Classification System, the NOC, is the place you have to go to match up your duties that you performed in your position with one of those knock profiles or positions that the government of Canada has set out. So the education requirements, though, are specifically excluded from this assessment. This is the law. So if you're hearing anyone who's telling you different, you can tell them to take a hike, because your education, whether or not it's matched up with what the education requirements state in your knock, please just ignore it. Okay, so the duties listed in your reference letter are the only thing that matters. Those duties must confirm that you've performed all of the activities in the lead statement. And what does substantial mean? Well, about 75% of the main duties in the knock. If the duty listed starts with a may, this isn't mandatory. It's not a mandatory duty that you have to demonstrate. If you have multiple occupations listed in the same knock, you only need to choose one. Okay? Now, here is a big pro tip. Okay? Don't leave it up to the immigration officer to figure things out on their own, but instead make their job easier by doing the matching for them. So that is the massive pro tip. Explain any technical terms used in your reference letter and how they equate to the corresponding duty in the knock. Make sure to explain it in a way that makes it really easy for that officer to agree with you that you've chosen the correct knock. When done correctly, this is probably the most effective tool of all to protect you from getting your knock rejected. And what happens if your knock gets rejected? Well, your whole application falls apart and it gets returned and you're back at square one, maybe without an opportunity to apply again. All right, let me give you an example of this. Let me tell you about a former client, Alvaro. So he was a past client, and before he came to me, Alvaro had hired a consultant to file his express entry application. However, the consultant didn't do anything, literally nothing more than uploading the letter that he provided to her. No assessment of the duties in the letter, no letter of explanation matching the duties to the knock duties. Let's just say she did nothing to make it easy for the officer to agree that Alvaro had actually chosen the correct knock, NOC. Well, not surprisingly, the application was refused and Alvaro's chances of staying in Canada were in serious jeopardy. After coming to me, we decided to use the method that I teach in my express entry course to prepare a reconsideration request that clearly explained how each duty in Alvaro's reference letter matched with the knock that they had previously chosen. We made it as easy as possible for the officer to see where they may have made a mistake. And fortunately, within weeks, Alvaro's express entry application was approved. In this rare circumstance, you guys, because we implemented the strategy that I teach in the course, Alvaro's dream of becoming a Canadian PR was saved. So when choosing your knock, ensure that the duties listed in your reference letter match with approximately 75% of the duties listed in the knock profile, and don't worry about the education requirements. And provide a letter of explanation for each work history that makes it easy for an officer to agree that you have chosen the correct knock. If you do this correctly, it will significantly increase your chance of getting that knock accepted. Okay, that's the first one. Let's move on now to the next problem area. And I think most of you probably know where I'm going, and that's reference letters. So the reason we're talking about this today is because you simply don't get a second chance to get your reference letter correct. And in the case of Alvaro, I didn't recreate his letter. I couldn't. All I could do was to try to, oh boy, it was not easy, to try to find a way to point out how the very general description in his job description in his reference letter actually matched. And so we had to connect the dots. Well, when it comes to reference letters, there is a window of opportunity. And if you miss this window, everything else will fall apart within your express entry application. So here's some specific things that you can do right now to increase the chances your reference letter will be accepted as proof of your work experience. First, give your employer some guidance. Don't simply ask your employer for a reference letter without giving them guidance. Wherever possible, explain exactly what IRCC needs to see in the reference letter. I'm not going to restate that. You can go online. You can go to the completeness check website. Even when you're at the EAPR stage, the document checklist has a little button you can click that tells you what to go in the reference letter. We don't need to cover that. That's elementary stuff. I'm trying to teach you the most important things that you need to know right now. So the best way of doing this is to provide them with a checklist that they can use to ensure nothing is missing. Remember, IRCC is ruthless, you guys. If something is missing and you have not found another way to prove it, your application will get rejected. So a simple, easy to follow checklist for your employer will make their job a whole lot easier when it comes to drafting your letter correctly. Okay, Next thing, often an employer will tell you to prepare your own reference letter and then they will review and sign it. Sound familiar? I'll bet if you guys give me a thumbs up, I'll bet that's exactly what the vast majority, what happens to you. Well, when it happens, most of you will not know how to do this. You've likely never been an employer before. You've never drafted a reference letter before. So you search for someone to guide you, right? A source you can trust. You search the internet for a sample reference letter template that you can use, and then you follow the exact format of that letter, right? Because you don't know how to do this. This is what most people do. Let me give you another pro tip. Please, please do not do that. If you found this template on the internet, so did thousands of other people in your exact situation. Can you imagine what it looks like to an immigration officer when they see that your reference letter looks like 3 or 4 of the 10 reference letters on their desk that have been provided by different applicants from completely different companies? This immigration officer will start to wonder whether or not your letter is fake. And I can tell you, as a former immigration officer, that's exactly what I would be thinking. I'd be saying, what the heck is this? Well, the format of your reference letter does not matter. It's the content that counts. If you include in your reference letter what IRCC requires you to include, your work history will be accepted when you do it correctly. All right. Third aspect of the reference letters. Well, you can't always control what you're going to get back from your employer. Am I right or am I right? A few months back, I had a paid consultation with Shafali. She worked for a large tech company in Canada and was a subscriber to the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel, which some of you are watching right now. She said to me, Mark, my employer was not willing to give me a reference letter. So I included a detailed email from my manager in my application. It's been 8 months since I submitted my application, and yesterday I got it rejected. Can you help me? Unfortunately, just like the situation of Raj, all that I could tell her was, you don't get a second chance. I can't help you now. Oh, how I wish Shafali would have known that an email just wasn't going to be good enough. Just like Shafali, sometimes your employer will refuse to give you a reference letter or only issue their standard letter that does not meet all IRCC requirements. So what do? Shafali was on the right track. She was filing her own application and knew that she had to provide something. However, in her case, it just wasn't enough. Despite all of her efforts and all of her research on the internet, she wasn't able to find a resource that gave her the right information so that she knew exactly what to do. Every applicant is different. Every one of you is different. Every employment situation is different. The key is to make sure that the documents you provide address each and every component required by IRCC. Review the list carefully and make sure your documents leave no gaps. I've now addressed this exact situation in my Express Entry Masterclass, and I provide my students with a comprehensive list of possible things that they could consider. But the key thing to remember is that you must first do everything in your power to get that reference letter. Remember, you don't get a second chance. Once your application has been submitted, you can't take it back. But if done correctly, you can use other documents to replace something that might be missing from your reference letter, or the reference letter entirely if that's the case. So what are the takeaways? Give your employer a reference letter checklist. Don't use a template found on the internet. And if your reference letter is missing something, find something else. So that's all I have to say about that. So let's now move to the last thing that I wanted to share with you. Letters of explanation. I left this last for a reason, and that reason is because letters of explanation, or commonly referred to as LOEs, are the secret sauce of an Express Entry application. If they're prepared properly, they can literally save an Express Entry application that is doomed for failure. The problem is everyone's thinking about these letters of explanation all the wrong way. You remember earlier that I told you never to use a reference letter template you found on the internet? Well, I haven't changed my mind about that. But when it comes to letters of explanation, I absolutely do want you to follow a very specific format. And I don't care if every single Express Entry applicant watching this video follows my exact format. I don't care. I couldn't care less if 10 out of 10 applications on an officer's desk all follow the format that I'm going to teach you today. Why? Because it's the method IRCC actually wants you to follow. If you recall earlier, I told you that it's your job to make the immigration officer's job as easy as possible. The letter of explanation is the best way to do this. Although there isn't necessarily a right way or a wrong way, I guess, necessarily to do it, there is definitely a better way. Over the past 6 years since Express Entry was created, I've learned a lot about the process. Getting a chance to observe thousands of applicants just like you going through the system has taught me a few things. One of those things is the best way to structure your letter of explanation. Now, I say letters because in every single Express Entry application of my clients, the students that go through my Express Entry Masterclass, as well as them, I encourage all of them to use multiple letters of explanation in a very strategic way. Let's go back to my client, Alvaro. If you recall, he got his application refused because he didn't use a letter of explanation to convince an officer that he'd actually chosen the correct NOC. The secret to getting his application reconsidered and approved was a short letter of explanation that was written only for that document. In his case, his reference letter. If there's something you need to explain about a document listed in your personal document checklist, I use strategic document-specific LOEs to address those concerns and upload them together with that document. Guys, this is a powerful strategy because it makes it so easy for an officer to read your instructions and go directly into the document you're explaining. If you don't do this, the officer's flipping back and forth between electronic documents and files and could very well miss the very thing you're trying to explain. They read your letter and then simply scroll down within the same file. That's what you want them to do. Read the letter and then just scroll down. That is the method that I'm trying to teach. Now, if there's nothing that needs explaining, please don't waste your time nor the officers providing a cover letter for every document. It serves no purpose. However, if a specific document could create some doubts in the mind of an officer, I use this strategic document-specific LOE to clarify any parts of that document that might be confusing to that officer. Okay, now like I said before, I use multiple LOEs. The second type is one I call the EAPR information LOE. Its name pretty much describes exactly what it is. The LOE is designed to clear up any doubts or confusion in an officer's mind that could be created by information you have included in the EAPR web forms. Maybe there is conflicting information in your personal history and your address history. Maybe you're not quite sure how to list trips you've taken in your travel history when you've visited multiple countries on the same trip. Anything that can't be explained very well in the limited space allowed in your EAPR can be all cleared up in this LOE. Okay, now you're probably thinking to yourself, Mark, this isn't anything new. Oh. Even I know that the purpose of the LOE is to clarify anything that is confusing in my application. If you're thinking this, you're right. Most people understand what they're supposed to do with the LOE. However, the information you are not going to find on the IRCC website or through any extensive internet search is the best way to actually structure that LOE. Like I said, over the past 6 years since Express Entry was launched, I've seen hundreds of different examples of LOEs. and had a lot of time to think about this same overriding question. How can I present this information in a way that will make it as easy as possible for an officer to understand and approve my client's application? Remember, officers have quotas as well. They're expected to thoroughly assess an application, but to do so as quickly as possible. In the old days, before express entry was even considered, the Federal Skilled Worker Program and the Canadian Experience Class programs were entirely paper-based. IRCC had very clear instructions on what they wanted you to do if there was insufficient space in the forms to answer your questions properly. Those paper-based instructions are still listed on the IRCC website. However, you have to search for them a little bit if you're going to find them. However, when it comes to express entry, the only guidance you get is this generic instruction to upload any additional information in a separate page in the client information section of your document checklist. So once again, when I couldn't find a source I could trust, I devised my own structure that not only ensures IRCC receives your information in the way they want to receive it, but does so in a way that makes it as easy as possible for them to connect the dots. When you're drafting your letter of explanation, use specific headings and subheadings that describe exactly where within the EAPR you're referring to. And go one step further. Actually restate or summarize the question that you're answering. By doing it this way, you can make the life of an officer so much easier. And when an officer is impressed with how easy you've just made their job, I can tell you that you are much more likely to get a favorable result. Simply than if you just dump information into a Word document with little to no structure, which then forces that poor officer to hunt forever to match up your explanation with the particular section you're referring to. And I'll be honest, all you need is a roadmap that sets out clearly how to structure your LOE in a way that an officer will love. I can picture in my mind an immigration officer. Let's call her Tanya, who now, because of the pandemic, is being forced to work from home, sitting in a small little corner in her bedroom, which is really the only place she can keep your information secure and confidential from the other members of her family who are also working or studying from home just like her. She's sitting there on an uncomfortable chair, kind of like the one I'm sitting on right now, processing express entry applications on a small little government-issued laptop. I can see Tanya. I can see her trying to flip back and forth between these tiny little windows on her screen, attempting to match information in a disorganized LOE to the proper section in the EAPR. I can see her frustration build. I can actually feel it. I remember those days. I can see that frustration build as she knows she has already exceeded her quota of time to process your application or this application, and she's faced with a mess, literally a disorganized mess. Can you picture how she must feel? Frustration builds and builds, and then it leads to annoyance. And annoyance builds to impatience. Tanya says to herself, "This is ridiculous. I can't make sense of what this person is saying. I'm not going to waste a single second more trying to sort this out. The onus is on this person to satisfy me, and they have simply not done so. At best, this application is sent for further review. At worst, Tanya outright refuses it." Now, I want you to picture Tanya once again. She's just finished processing the previous application and now comes to yours. She realizes that you too have included an LOE in your application. Tanya starts to feel her frustration build once again, but this time she notices something different. She sees that you've included not one confusing, difficult to follow LOE, but instead multiple short, easy to understand explanations that are linked directly to each document you've uploaded. Her mood starts to change. On her little laptop, She doesn't have to flip-flop back and forth between electronic files trying to connect the dots like she did in the previous application. Tanya is now able to simply scroll from your LOE down to all of the important documents because they're all bundled together in one file. The review process goes very quick. She gets through all of your documents and it was super easy for her. Then she turns to the last part of your application. She opens up your EAPR information LOE and is even more satisfied because she can see that you took the time to create a clear, easy to follow pathway that allowed her to quickly verify your information. Tanya says to herself, wow, what a difference from the last application. This was the easiest approval I have had all day. So, takeaways. 1, create a separate document-specific LOE for each document that needs an explanation. 2, take the time to draft your EAPR information LOE with well-organized headings and subheadings and restated questions from your EAPR so that the officer can easily have all her concerns resolved. When it comes to drafting your LOE, you need to understand how to do it in such a way as to make the officer's job as easy as possible. Because when a well-written and organized letter of explanation is done properly, it can literally transform an express entry application from one destined for the refusal pile to one that gets approved time and time again. I've seen this countless times with people I've helped over the past many years. Well, one of the most common questions I get is, Mark, can you help me with my express entry application? The answer is obviously yes. I've created a complete step-by-step masterclass to teach you the essential strategies of getting your express entry application approved. This course was created from the experience that I've gained helping thousands of people just like you go through the express entry process. Ever since it was first launched over 6 years ago, it is a complete step-by-step course where I personally walk you through the entire express entry process. Not only is every section within the EAPR profile and EAPR covered, but it is full of checklists and tools and specific instructional videos. And the best part is the live teaching sessions that we host in a subscriber-only private Facebook group. These teaching sessions are followed by Q&As that are only available to subscribers. All of this is designed to ensure you have the best chance of getting your express entry application approved. So what this means for you is that you'll no longer need to struggle for weeks or even months, spending hundreds of hours searching the internet endlessly, wondering if you've done it right. I make sure you have the tools necessary to ensure your application is done correctly and you avoid the common mistakes that can cost you your chance of realizing your dream of immigrating to Canada. Go to the Express Entry Masterclass registration page by clicking on the link below in the description, and you can get access to the course right now. Now, there's a caveat. I can't have 5,000 people in this. So the next masterclass has room for only 100 people. When the class is full, the registration page will close and not reopen until the next masterclass later this year. The reality is, guys, whether you are completely new to the express entry process and considering immigrating to Canada for the first time, whether you're someone who's done a little bit of research and knows enough to how to submit your express entry profile, or whether you've spent hundreds of hours researching everything you can find on the government website and the internet, and maybe even consider yourself an expert, this course is still for you. No matter at what stage you're at in your express entry journey, this course will increase your chances of realizing your dream of immigrating to Canada. And I know that sounds hokey, but it is 100% the truth. Now, don't worry. You don't need to spend the thousands of hours that I've spent thoroughly learning the express entry process. You also don't need to spend as much as $5,000 to hire an immigration representative. That's what I used to charge, one-to-one, $5,000. And I know people charge less or more than that, but I'm not going to charge you that. I'm not even going to charge you $1,000. You will only pay $350 to enjoy the benefit of what I consider an essential resource in your Express Entry journey. So picture a day when, after all your hard work, your permanent resident approval letter arrives in the mail. Picture a day when your child comes up to you and says, "Thank you so much for making the sacrifice to allow me to grow up in Canada." Picture a day when you're finally settled in Canada with the job of your dreams, living the life of your dreams, and you finally have everything that you wanted. Join me in the Express Entry Masterclass, and that day is literally today. Now, let me leave you with one final thing before we move to the Q&A period. As many of you know, with the beautiful Canadian winters that we have here, comes some colder temperatures. As a homeowner, you better learn very quickly that you need to blow out the water in your underground sprinklers before winter comes, or they will freeze and break your sprinkler lines because water, it expands. Well, a year ago, things got, they got pretty busy as I was preparing to launch my new immigration law firm, Holy Immigration Law. Well, it got so busy that I forgot to blow my sprinkler lines out. And yes, my sprinkler lines froze and they broke. My wife told me, "Mark, you've got to hire a professional sprinkler installer to come repair the break in our line." I said, "I can do this. It's not hard. Look, honey, we can save money by just having me do it myself." So after, I'm embarrassed to say, 3 months, I finally got around to working on those broken lines. However, I ran out of time before my wife and I had to leave for a trip out of town. Unfortunately, I forgot to close the water valve to the sprinklers before we left. A couple days after we were away, I got a call from my kids saying that a City of Lethbridge maintenance employee had come by our house because one of our neighbors was complaining about water flooding their backyard. The kids had actually turned on the main water valve to the outside of the house, and when they did this, the water flooded back into the broken sprinkler lines. Because I never got around to finishing the job, the water completely flooded our backyard and our neighbor's backyard. In fact, there was so much water that one of our trees literally started to lean over sideways because the ground was a swamp. I'll bet you can guess what my wife told me. "Why didn't you just hire a professional?" Because I tried to do it on my own, I wasted months of time not being able to use my sprinklers during the hottest part of the summer. My grass was literally brown in patches, and it was always lush and green. Well, because of my decisions I made, it caused some pretty significant damage to both my and my neighbors' yards. I spent a ton of money and time trying to fix the problem, and in the end, the problem was actually worse than before I even started trying to fix it on my own. So I did what I should have done in the beginning. I hired a professional, and the problem was fixed. At times in our lives, we think we can do it on our own, but we really need to hire an expert. The reality is that I don't fix broken underground sprinklers every day like an expert. I may only have to deal with a broken sprinkler once in my life. At least I sure hope that's the case. The same is true for you in your Express Entry journey. You only go through the process once. I've been helping people safely navigate the Express Entry process almost every day since Express Entry was first launched. It's all that I do, and I love doing it. Now is the time to avoid costly mistakes, stop wasting time, and get better results than you could have ever achieved trying to file your application on your own. My broken sprinklers cost me a lot of time and money. However, despite how badly I messed things up, the professional was still able to fix things for me. When it comes to Express Entry, you rarely get a second chance. Fortunately, with the help of my Express Entry Masterclass, you can significantly increase your chances of getting your application approved the first time. I truly believe in this, and I believe that every single person who is applying through Express Entry deserves the right to have access to this course. So click on the link below to register for the next Express Entry Masterclass before it's full. Remember, I'll only be able to take the first 100 people that register.